Hey, what up, everybody? Tim Castleman here with a very, very special Toke Tim podcast. I call it the Toke Tim podcast because of my special guest today, Brad Gosse. Before I introduce Brad, I want to let you guys know how we're doing this interview. Normally, you guys are used to it just being me with my headset 2 inches from my nostrils. You guys can hear every breath and stuff like that. We're actually here at the Traffic and Conversion Summit up in the room. We've tried to make it as easy as possible to do this so that you can hear it. So I apologize in advance if the sound quality isn't as great as you normally expect it. If I'm smart and can remember, I'll have this pro edited, and someone with talent and skill and ability can fix it. But if not, just listen, because I think you guys are going to be in for a real treat. I got to know Brad. God, when was the first time we met? Actually, this is no shit. I was thinking about this the other day. I bought one of Brad's products back on the WSO forum, and I remember I followed him on Twitter, and he had set up just an auto poster, and it was all vegan shit, and it was like every 15 minutes was like a new vegan post to a new thing. And I remember I took a screenshot of it, posted on the word form. I was like, who the fuck is this guy to post vegan shit every 15 minutes? Like party foul, dude. Like, this is terrible. When people came on and were like, you shouldn't talk shit about Brad. And I was like, what the fuck ever. And I got out, and I remember we met at an event, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's a great guy. I went back and followed you again, and I still got spammed by that vegan shit. I was like, I'm stupid. I shouldn't be doing that. So my special guest today is Brad Gosse. Brad, I'll definitely have him talk about his history and stuff, but we really just kind of wanted to connect and talk about some crazy stuff that Brad's kind of done in his past, and some pretty interesting stuff he's doing currently with high-end coaching. And also I want to talk about self-confidence, because one of the things I've always admired about Brad is he seems to be abound with self-confidence. He has the ability to ask for super high fees and get them on a consistent basis. And, we always joke about like baller on a budget or guru positioning, but Brad is one of the guys that I've actually seen kind of orchestrate that from something to nothing and really rise over the years to that status without having to do, I don't say without having to do a ton of work, but without having to do the normal path of grinding away for years at a time and accepting other people's kind of limitation with that. So with that, the world's longest fucking intro, Brad, welcome.
Thank you. I just want to point out, because since this is an audio-only podcast, that Tim is drinking a vegan smoothie.
Yes. Yes, I am. Yes. From Vitality Tap. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the liquid shits that come later with this. Yeah.
There's a juice bar here in San Diego, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great. It's about 2 blocks from the hotel. It's my first one and my last one. But yes, I am drinking a vegan smoothie. We do have a bottle of Captain Morgan spiced rum, half drank, on the desk over there, because nothing but the finest wine and cheeses for my guests. So
I wore you down with my Twitter marketing.
Yes, yeah. You did. Yeah, it just was. I was just like, who is this asshole, and why is he spamming me Twitter vegan shit all the time? Like, come on, dude. I remember that like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh shit, I used to hate you when I first met you, and I didn't even know you about that. So for the people that don't know about your history, why don't you share a little bit about your background? Because it's just, every time you tell it to me, I learned something new about you.
I started in the late 90s online as an internet marketer, and the thing that made the majority of the money back then, I always refer to the 3 Ps, was porn, poker, and pills. And I can't play poker to save my life, and not much of a pill popper, so I was in my early 20s. I thought I'll get into to sell porn on the internet.
And you weren't doing it as a performer. You were actually and you weren't even actually on the production side, or would that be considered the production
a little bit? I wasn't in the porn. You're either in the porn for the business, or you're in the business for the porn.
Right.
Right. There's kind of two camps.
Right.
Of course, if you're in the business, if you're in the porn for the business, you still obviously you like it, and you don't have, you're not against it. It's just, you're not performing. You're not, a part of that side of things. You're more on the business side. So I licensed content from photographers and producers around the world, and, paid the fees to be able to retransmit it on the internet, and built websites around that kind of stuff back in a time when people were willing to pay for it.
So this is before the free porn heyday of today.
Yeah. The free line moved to a point. I would say, for me anyway, I think it was different for everybody in the biz. And some people have made the free line work. But the free line moved to a point for many of us where we just couldn't make the model work anymore of making people pay a subscription to get access to 4,000 DVDs or whatever, right? It just wasn't enough.
So you were basically doing continuity membership sites around different niches or actresses or both?
Yeah, niches was the main thing for me.
I'm sorry, it's niches.
Oh,
it's West Texas.
Yeah.
Don't put that fucking French Canadian bullshit on me. Yeah.
It's actually pronounced sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
Different niches, like, everything from sort of, the plain vanilla hardcore porn to, blowjob sites. And, back in the day, it just happened. It was one of my most famous sites was baldfemale.com. I owned this website, and it was just these naked pictures of a woman who was bald and getting shaved. And it consistently made money every day. Like, it just, through osmosis. Like, I didn't do any marketing. Just
bald women did it for some people.
Yeah, and it was just I just happened to have the right domain, the right search term. It was back when exact match domains mattered, and
right.
Just landed all the all kinds of crazy membership signups
off of
a site like that.
Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Right.
And I mean, people would send like. People would just send emails to. They would figure, okay, somebody's answering one of these emails, and they'd send it to like webmaster at bald female and admin at and all. We would get them because back in the day we'd have catch all emails, and people would be like, I will pay. And we don't know this woman. We've just licensed the photos, and people would email us and say, I will pay $10,000 to come out and shave your head. If you grow your hair for a couple months.
Wow.
We get these weird emails from guys, like I remember once we got a picture from a guy, and he was standing in front of this mansion. Who knows if it was his? And he was like, "I can take you away from all of this," you get these weird emails from guys at random.
Holy shit. Wow. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a totally adult podcast. Like, not just topic matter, but if this stuff offends you, turn away now.
We're telling you now.
Yeah, we're telling you now. Like Brad always says in his talks, like, go have a coffee if it's going to offend you. But that's just crazy. So that's where you get started. Dude, I love this story, so I hope you'll tell it. But talk about how you and your buddies used to distribute this content, like where they would just come over to the house on the weekends and kind of how that worked.
Well, yeah, when I first started out, I was in my early 20s, and I was definitely not experienced as an entrepreneur. So I made a lot of mistakes. And one of the mistakes was I learned this lesson hard, but you shouldn't bring in friends and family into your business. I mean, and I think that's different for everybody, but I learned the hard way. I tried to bring all my buddies with me,
right.
And so we were building so many, we called them feeder websites back in the day. We built so many websites. I would buy giant volumes of content at a time. This was before videos. We were doing pictures, and FedEx would bring these boxes of CD-ROMs, and we would pull them all into a PC, and we would smoke a lot of weed and just go off and build sometimes 1,000 websites in a month, simple 30 to 50 picture websites that would be designed to advertise something bigger.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I had all my friends working for me. I mean, we were cranking out stuff back.
But basically, once a week, they'd roll over, get their new assignments, have a few joints, and get to work.
They'd run off and do their sites, and then they'd bring me back sites. And it was interesting because I had 5 or 6 friends working for me back then, and they had the freedom to make their own way. They didn't get paid by the hour. They were paid by the website that they built. And I gave them all unlimited ceilings because I was making so much money. The more they did for me, the more money I made. It was just a simple equation. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Right. So how much gasoline can you give me? Right.
Totally. Yes.
So they would work really hard, and some of them would produce 3-4 times what one guy would produce 3 or 4 times the volume that the other would produce because he had more hustle.
Wow. Okay.
It was always kind of interesting to see. I had one friend who was just happy to make $500 to $1,000 a week.
Yeah, he was just looking right.
And so him and his wife would spend Sunday afternoon doing their entire 2 weeks of work, right? And just to make enough money to get by. They were quite happy with that sort of minimum effective dose.
I got an uncle like that. As long as he's got beer in the fridge and gas in the tank, life is good, right?
Yeah. So it was kind of, it was always interesting to see this sort of different dynamic between my friends. But it was an interesting time, and we were definitely I mean, I remember saying back in those days, if this internet thing sticks around, if this thing, because it was still so new.
Yeah, I remember having to buy the old dial-up modems.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You remember AOL? You had to buy hours on it, and it's just and that's right. It was so new. Everyone was like, "Well, let's give it some time." All the major technology was like, "Oh, let's give it some time and see if this." I think this is just a dying consumer fad. Now think about it. If you were disconnected from the internet and your mobile phone, you'd freak the fuck out in 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have a full-blown panic attack. You ever done the "oh shit, I forgot my phone, I gotta run back to the house"?
Yep.
In case, yeah.
No, I do it all the time.
It's just a panic. Or we're at this event with 3,000 other marketers, and all they're bitching about is the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. It sucks. So you did that, right?
Yeah.
And then the free line kind of took over. So this is always something curious. I know we talked about this before, but it's you'll see these. I think something similar to what you create. One of them I seen. I'm sorry. One of mine, a friend of mine, has told me about is exgirlfriendphotos.net. But basically, it's people that they get user generated content. I think where it's you get a spited ex-boyfriend and he sends in naked photos of his girl. But then all along the side, it's got 50 cam sites and all that. And I'm guessing that's just a volume thing, right? Because if you type in ex-girlfriend photos, I mean, I've heard, allegedly, not me personally, but if you type in ex-girlfriend photos, it's the number one ranked site for it, which is just crazy. So how does a guy like that make money in this, when I can go to, YouPorn and 2 clicks away from, 30 seconds of happiness?
People pay for experience today. So when you look at how the free line has moved in the porn space, and this is very similar to YouTube, and I mean, although YouTube is they're kind of a similar model, really. If you look at the tube-based porn sites,
okay,
they have a similar model. They bring in advertisers. It's a RTB, real-time bidding system, where you have the ability to outbid your competitors, and they squeeze the profits. So if you have a dating website that has some special thing, you found a thing, I mean, these things are, so the money's always made in the experience upsell. So
right.
YouPorn and a lot of these other websites, they have content. It's video, pre-recorded video, and photo type content on most of these websites. So first of all, you'll get to a point where you can only see so many images from or videos from, say, Amateur or whatever, one of these other pay sites.
Right.
And if you're really into that specific niche and that website has 10 times more content on the back end, and you're hardcore into it, you'll go and pay for it.
Right.
But beyond that, the advertisers on the side, they're upselling experience, right? You can't get one-on-one access to a cam girl for free on the internet. That does not exist.
Right.
And it probably never will, because who's going to do that for free?
Right.
Who's going to pay for that?
Right.
The girl's not going to do it for free.
Of course not. Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing and there will always be someone in the middle with technology who will make money doing that,
right?
And who will take a percentage for that privilege and for for running the traffic. And then there's always going to be an affiliate who finds the whales who spend all the money on the cam girls.
Right.
And so there's a correlation there. And so what happens is, if you find an experience type website or a niche that works, my cam girl has dark hair and tattoos, and this is making a ton of money on this particular website.
Right.
In 3 weeks, there'll be 20 other guys with dark-haired, tattooed cam girls on that website, and they'll squeeze YouPorn will squeeze the profit, because you guys will all outbid each other on ads.
Okay, makes
right?
sense.
So
yeah.
They make these guys make their money on the real-time bidding, and the fact that when you find something that works,
or when something is proven that it works, everyone kind of
the Me Too's come along and they squeeze everybody, and so
it's so funny you said that, because Don Wilson, who was at this conference, said something. He's like, dude, the problem with paid traffic is it gets knocked off so quickly.
Yep.
And it's that's crazy to think. You would think paid traffic would be a big enough barrier to entry for those people, but apparently not.
Yeah, it's a real hustle, and that's the problem, is that whenever you find, if you find a way to turn $1 into $4, it won't. I mean, and I don't want to take the wind out of everyone's sails, but that is a part of the process, and so you need to be in a situation where you own your product, and you have something. This is off topic a little bit, but you have something that you can scale that maybe others can't. A barrier of entry. It's not as simple as just being an affiliate to something, or
right?
Having something that you can quickly snap out in terms of what it is. But it won't be long before you're turning $2 into $4, and then $3 into $4, and then $3.99 into $4, and then you lose money. And then you have to change that marketing. There's a problem with Me Too advertisers and banner blindness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, even at this conference, they're talking about go find your competitor's ad, knock it off, and put it up there, and you'll get some more click-through. So, I mean, they're even advocating that as far as kind of a way that they do it, which is just interesting. Yeah, I mean, to me, when you're talking about 1 into 4, then 2 into 4, that is kind of my experience with Teespring. And people that sell on it. It used to be this big gravy train. More and more knockoffs, more and more, and it's getting tougher and tougher now. To where you may be doubling your money, but before you were quadrupling your money.
Yep.
And that's, if what you're saying is true, then there may be a day where you're losing money or just breaking even. So, little shout out to Teespring there. I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus, but I mean that's the only paid traffic model that I have any experience with.
Right,
that I have seen from what I consider the beginning to where it is now. And if you think about that, that's probably only been within the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, think about that. Going from 4x revenue to 1x revenue in 3 years, that puts a big hurting real easy.
Especially when you're when your business sort of relies on a flow of new products and new ideas. It can get very disheartening when you see how quickly they get knocked off.
Well, it's just like launches. Think about that. Remember 2 years ago when it was like sell a copy and I'll come personally blow you at your house? And now it's like if you see like a $500 affiliate prize on it, and it's because everyone kind of did that model and it became so hypersensitive that it just got to a point where people were losing thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And then someone said, "I'm just not going to do that anymore,"
Yeah.
and they find a different way.
Yeah. This is getting really negative. This is like Debbie Downer podcast.
Dude, my people are used to it. We talk about the Suicide Watch podcast by Tim Castleman.
Wow.
That's what some of them are. All right, well, let's talk about happier stuff. So you do the porn thing, right? I know you did a cam studio. You have some hilarious stories about that. But after porn was over and you said, okay, I'm done with porn, what was next?
The last thing I did well in adult was I was really good at SEO. And I spent a lot of time on it. I was number 1 for porn on Google and then lost that after about 18 months. And, but I knew why I lost it. So I still knew what to do. I just screwed up. And so I started teaching, companies because I had this great office space with conference room and, plasma screens and all this stuff, because I was making more money than I knew what to do with. And
right.
So I pissed it away on cool, office furniture.
That sounds pretty awesome. Yeah.
I had one of these miniature Googleplex type offices in my own little world. And I so I brought companies in and I taught their people how to do their own in-house SEO.
Right.
And
I think that's where I first remember. Yeah, you were doing like little events in Toronto, if I remember.
Yeah. And out of my office, and it was a fairly good revenue stream for me, and kind of got me into. And then I started to realize I can't scale this. Right, I was good at it, but I couldn't scale it.
Right.
So I started doing info products on SEO, and then I realized that wasn't really going to be what. Like I tried to. I think so. For a little while, I tried to not talk about my adult entertainment history because I had made the jump to mainstream, and my original thought was, you guys are not going to like me,
right?
If I tell you that I came from porn,
right?
And then so for a little while, I was, especially when I was trying to get insurance companies to come and take my class, I didn't want to make it all about coming from porn, but I did tell them,
right?
Because I had to have some backing of proof to say this is
right.
what I know what I'm doing.
This is why you should listen to me.
Yeah,
right.
So I had the Google Analytics history, and I could show this is what I've done. But I tried to keep it kind of under wraps, and then I realized that if I didn't talk about that stuff and I didn't bring that to my products, I wasn't going to sell. I wasn't going to stand out.
Right.
So I started, teaching people how I made money with selfie photos of girls, and how I did all these kind of other things that were somewhat crossed over, not adult necessarily, but how to kind of push the line a little bit, and that really got me going.
Okay, so I want a copy of your selfie product because I tried to find it last night, and I'll give you a copy of my notes.
Okay.
And that will be a digital exchange of information.
That's a win.
I'm not going to have him explain the selfie story because it would take too long. And two, that's what I'm doing. Forget Kindle, forget anything else. I'm going in the selfie market. So I'm just kidding with that. So you so you do that. You're doing the SEO. You're kind of starting to do the internet marketing. One of the things that I remember. You always did things just a little bit different in a way that stood out. Like, I remember you did, like, the no refund thing, and you were just very upfront about it. Like, I don't have a refund policy. I have a no refund policy, but it's not like it's in your face. It's not like in the headline, Like,
Yeah.
how to make $1 million tomorrow, no refunds, don't fucking ask. You know? But you're very upfront with that. Like, and, I remember you even had a graphic that I loved. It was like, no haterade on the thread. Like, you're very good about kind of just being like, hey, this is who we're going to be. And this is who, this is who we want. This is who we don't want. And before I forget, I really do want to talk about what you said about the porn thing, about how I thought that was kind of going to be used against me, but it turns out people love it. I think it's great. Like, you're the guy that really taught me this. I think Colin enforced it was one success gives you credibility in the other. Mm-hmm. And I this came to light when I actually heard you to speak at XBiz, but it was like the porn background gave you credibility in the SEO world, and then when you kind of went mainstream, that gave you credibility in the porn world. Because with the porn guys, it seems like more than anything, they just want to be accepted, right? They want to be like, it's mainstream, and they want to be accepted in that, and they feel like they've got this. I mean, I've seen tons of porn documentaries, research only, of course, where like guys are like, you have to black my face out and don't use my name because I shoot for TV shows, and if they know I do this, they won't do it. But porn always has had that negative, that stigma, but I feel like in this industry, it really helps solidify that. One, because your target market, watch all the time. But two, it's kind of like you're the outsider. You weren't like, I went to an Ivy League school where I learned this, and I have my mom's cooking business. You're like, you want to see a chick suck a dick? I'm number one for that keyword. And I think that was great, and it made you stand out. But it also, because you were able to access your previous history, that I think raised your stock a ton, because it wasn't like, you were doing like number one baker in Lubbock, Texas. Who gives a shit? There's 3 bakeries in town, but number one for porn, that's huge. And people see a real world or a perceived value on doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it kind of, once I moved over to this camp, the guys in the adult space started asking me to talk at their events, and they never asked me to talk when I was in the space. It was always, I'd just go to events. But once I became successful in mainstream, they really wanted me to bring the knowledge from our camp back over to them. And you're right, like you kind of climb the ladder that way.
Well, it's kind of like what I do. I mean, and I say this openly, but it's what I do with Kindle. Because I publish and I'm successful on Kindle, then I can sell information products. And because I can sell information products, people on Kindle are like, well, how do you do that? So it's kind of a loop where it's just like self-perpetuating success. And it was a great talk. I mean, and one of the coolest things is Brad has actually written a book, like a big boy book, as my buddy Brian Johnson likes to call it, called The Chronic Marketer. You can pick it up. It's hilarious. There's an interview actually of you in my old house and me, and we were fucking talking on that. It's a great book. But I remember you brought it there, and you kind of just mentioned it, and it was amazing how many people picked it up. But what was really amazing was how the perceived value of you went up instantly, because it's like you're a published author. It's like, hey guys, I got a book in the back, it's there, you can take one free. Everybody went and grabbed one. Everyone was like, oh shit, this guy's legitimate, And I was very, very impressed how you were able to do that, and like you say, just kind of get the respect of both industries at the same time.
It was a lot of, that was a fun talk, because I had spoken there 2 years prior, and they asked me to speak the third time, and I was really kind of out of stuff. Like, I didn't quite know what I was going to talk about. And the owner of XBiz, Alec Helmy, and I were on a call, and he said, I'd really like you to do a talk about selling in a free economy.
Right.
And I thought, oh, I can spin that. Let me, done. I'll take care of it. And so I started thinking about it, how I was going to do this talk. And this was the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm joking. My idea was I was going to go and grab a $100 prepaid Visa card, and I was going to sign up to every porn site that had won an XBiz award in the year prior.
Nice. Okay.
And so I went and signed up to, I don't know, like a dozen different membership porn sites,
right,
in a bunch of different verticals. And I took myself through the user experience and sort of documented the annoyance factor that was, dealing with a paid porn site. And I compared it to the YouPorn experience and how YouPorn had, half the number of clicks to get to a streaming video and half the time and less intrusive advertising than a site I just paid money to access. And I took them through this, like, how shitty the user experience was.
And unlimited. YouPorn never stops you and says, "Hey, stop."
Yeah.
You're done watching videos.
Yeah. If you sign up to some adult sites and you start downloading too much, they'll say, "Hey, slow down. You got a monthly membership here. We want to keep you."
Right.
Whereas YouPorn, you let you watch all day long.
Right.
So yeah, it became a really easy idea for a talk because you could take that to any space as a marketer, right? You could go to an insurance conference and look at 20 different life insurance companies' websites and talk about how crappy their experience is because you can't just go and sign up for a policy without jump through a million hoops or whatever it might be. It was a cool eye opener because talks like this are scary because you get up on stage and you're basically blasting the audience. You guys are doing a shitty job.
Well, I remember at the beginning you were kind of flipping through the companies you're going to do, and one of the CEOs or one of the head guys was there, and he was just like, "Oh Jesus!" He was like, "Fuck, I'm about to get roasted." Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's a hard talk to do, but I ended up getting a really good review of it. They really liked.
Oh, dude, yeah, Max Hardcore was all over. Yeah. We got to meet Max Hardcore. We did not shake his hand. We were like, I don't want where. I know I've seen your videos, Max. I know where the hand's been. No. But and a lot of
he's a fan of mine.
Yeah, and a lot of other people that from these big companies were really appreciative of that. And I felt like listening in the audience, I felt like that was a message they needed to hear because it was true. You were basically like, look, I can see porn in 3 clicks on YouPorn. Whatever I want, I'm there with you. I gotta, like you say, I give you money. You immediately want more money. I can only watch so many videos. You limit me this. God forbid there's a problem. I can't talk or call in. And I think it really was eye-opening for them to kind of see, like, this is what they're up against. It's a lot like, to me, the music economy. It's like, yeah, you guys, no one's buying albums anymore, motherfuckers. Like, stop producing them. Put together some songs, record that shit live, put it out on or record an album to get people there, and then when they show up, don't give me a fucking CD. I'll go to, when I go to concerts now and these struggling bands, I'll go up and I'll go, are you on Spotify? I'll download the Spotify album right in front of them. I'll pay them for, their $10 they want for their album, and I say, keep it, because I don't fucking want it. I'm going to throw it in the trash. Because who the fuck has albums these days? But it's almost like these big industries are just, they're praying that something like the undo button comes and it just goes, it's like, no, guys, it's not, and the guys I see that are really successful as independent artists, like a Ryan Montbleu, like a Sturgill Simpson, they all have different paths, but they just basically become marketers as well as musicians, and
you have to be.
Yeah. And one thing Ryan Montbleu does that I think is genius is, he invested the money, but he has a soundboard. He records every show live, and at the end of it, you can get for $15. I think you get a little USB drive, and it's like, what's more better than a personalized fucking concert that you were at? So it's not like, dude, you got to listen to this album. It's like, I was at this concert and this was going on. I mean, it's fucking smart.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it's just like cam girls doing private shows. It's like they'll pay more money because you get that individualized, personalized
experience.
Yeah, and it's like, man, I just love this because it's just for me.
Yeah, and I think our economy is moving in that direction. We've talked about sort of the information economy and how everything is moving free. Everything that's being sold right now, there's nothing information-wise being sold right now that you can't find for free elsewhere.
With podcasts
out
or
videos. In the wild.
Right, yeah.
You may have to weed through a lot to find it.
Right.
But you can find it out in the wild. And so the idea of information having value diminishes greatly as time goes by and the internet explodes in terms of the number of websites being built, the number of videos uploaded to YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So you have to look at your own business and say, if I'm in the information only business, how do I shift that to provide some level of experience on the other end?
Right.
What's the experience I can offer people that is personalized, that gives them a story to tell outside of just the information?
Right. No, I agree. I think it's awesome. So, all right, well, let's keep going because I don't want to keep circling back to the porn. But so you're doing the SEO, you're doing the guru thing a little bit as far as like doing some information products, and then did I just see you kind of just suddenly start going in several different directions with several different companies? So, what are you doing right now? Like, what's occupying the majority of your headspace?
Majority of my headspace right now is cartoon licensing.
Right.
I own a company called Vector Toons. We have a cartoon-based stock. It's like a stock photo website for cartoons.
Okay.
And it allows people who want to, illustrate their products or their books or their sales letters or their whatever with cartoons to help make their point. So we have 10,000 cartoons right now in our system, and we're growing. I have 5 full-time cartoonists. We're growing that base of content every single day, and we sell cartoons for about $2 a piece. And we have bigger bundle deals and all of that kind of stuff. But the average is about $2 per cartoon. So you want to make a T-shirt, or you want something for a book cover. You want whatever that might be. You do a search and hopefully you find a picture that you want, and it's $2. You can use it in your own stuff, and we don't. It's royalty free. And so from that catalog, I've kind of moved in a new direction, which is licensing. And I went to an event in Vegas this summer called Licensing Expo, and I learned a lot about physical product licensing. So if you own original content, art-wise, whether it's a unique photograph that you've taken, or maybe you own Grumpy Cat, Grumpy Cat was at Licensing Expo, and Grumpy Cat's a great example of an image that is extremely licensable because someone owns the cat, can own the trademark on Grumpy Cat, can have, you can't use that image without them getting a royalty.
Holy cow.
And it goes on everything.
Right.
Right. So Grumpy Cat, there's a Grumpy Cat endorsed cat food. There's a Grumpy Cat, there's phone cases, there's, and they get, I don't know what their numbers are, but most higher end brands like a Disney or whatever will get 20% of the retail price of a product that's being sold with their imagery on it.
Wow.
They don't actually, when you see a product with a licensed image on it, let's say like a Star Wars or whatever that might be, the company that makes that product isn't Lucasfilm, right? It's some manufacturing company that licensed that image from Lucasfilm and pays them every time you buy it.
Makes sense, yeah.
So, not comparing myself to Disney, I'm sort of the Walmart of cartoons. If you're to look at it that way, I have a my inventory doesn't have any brand value necessarily, but it's simple.
Right.
It's if you just need something, you just need a cartoon for a talk you're doing or whatever, I have it, and it's cheap and quick.
Right.
So that's my focus because it's an digital asset based business that has the potential to be extremely valuable as it grows.
Right. Well, one of the things I also have seen you do, and this has probably just been within the last maybe 18 months or so, is you went from, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been following that close, but you went from like nothing on Flippa to like an extreme super seller in a record amount of time when you've sold several properties at high value for yourself, and now you kind of are actually doing it as a service too. Is that right?
Yeah.
How'd that start? I'm just curious. Like, what made you be like, I'm going to flip a site on Flippa?
It started because I was starting to move into. I made a pivot and I repivoted, but I wanted to get into the startup world, like these funded startups, that have tons of money in the bank and have venture capitalists feeding them cash and usually have big exits, and it all looked the grass was very green in my view. I thought, this looks really good. I want to advise for startups, and I've made some money along the way doing that. And I still, I'm on the advisor board for JV Zoo, and so I own pieces of some companies that are very successful. But I wanted to get into sort of the other side of the world, which isn't bootstrapped. It's more like the VC funded world. And so I partnered with a company, and I decided I'm going to sell off some of my websites, so I don't have to deal with the support, and so I'll put them up on Flippa. And I made a lot of money selling them. It was like really good. The numbers were really good. And so I thought, wow, I could just, launch a new website. I basically outsource the whole thing, launch a new website every, 2 to 4 weeks and flip it on Flippa. And was just a really good model.
Right.
Make some cash. Okay, I proved this product sells. Go sell it to someone who wants to have fun and scale it because I have shiny-itis and I want to go make another product.
So you would just basically make a minimum viable product, sell it, whether it's through your list or through any whoever's, and then get a couple sales to show the viability, like, hey, people will buy this, and here's the people that have
Here's a conversion rate and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I have all the stats. And then
say, hey, I want to move on to another venture. Buy this from me, and you can do all the work. Here's all the stuff you can do.
Yep.
I just don't want to do it.
Exactly.
And people buy that because, one, it's a proven concept, but two, I always believe, even with InfoProduct, people buy into the dream, right? And they go, well, look at how much this guy accomplished with how little. I can always accomplish more.
There's different types of entrepreneurs, right? If you kind of look at the physical world, there's the entrepreneurs who start their own restaurant that nobody's ever heard of, and then there's entrepreneurs that go and buy a TGI Fridays franchise. Right. And they're both, great entrepreneurs, and they both have different ideas about how all of that works. And some people want to go into something that's proven, has support and backing and has real, they're not the first rodeo. And then there's other people who want to break that new ground and create the TGI Fridays, but they don't necessarily want to see it through to the point where it's this giant global corporation.
Right.
They just want to be the guy who founded it and sold it.
Gotcha.
And I'm that guy. I'm not. I don't want to build a company where I have to go to work in a suit every day and deal with HR problems and, answer, press questions or whatever.
You're not trying to build a 100-year business.
Yeah, not necessarily. And I like my lifestyle.
That's awesome. That's great. I think that's good. And I think that's smart. So you started doing it, and then was it Flippa that contacted you, or was it people like seeing your success on Flippa that said, hey, can you help me out?
Well, yeah, because I was a super seller on Flippa and I had a really great success rate and a awesome feedback, people who wanted to buy websites were contacting me and saying, what would you charge to coach me? And so, I started doing flip coaching where I would, take someone through the process of, I have an idea for a product and I would help them to figure out how to build the minimum viable product that fits their world the best, and launch it on a small scale and then flip it. And then the idea was that you would pay me, I have programs that start at $10,000 and move up to $35,000 depending on sort of the level of attention that you get. So
right.
The 10K is the most popular because it's the cheapest, and most people like to come in at the minimum they can and see what they can get out of it. But it's sold in such a way where I don't promise them any number of hours. It's done I tell them, I'm going to teach you a minimum viable product, and we're going to do it the minimum amount of time possible, because I don't want to waste your time or mine, sitting on the phone every 2 weeks, checking how you're doing, checking up on how you're doing. I want to tell you how to do this and get you to the result as quickly as possible so that you can do it again and again and again.
That's smart. And I mean, you glossed over this, but this whole lead up has been to what I'm about to talk about now, which is the fact that you just drop 10K price tags like it's no big deal. And you frame it in such a way where we're not spending, we're not becoming best buddies. We're not getting matching tattoos and becoming Eskimo brothers. Like we're going to spend as little time together as possible. So before I ask you about that, though, I hope people caught that lesson. Like, Brad had zero experience in Flippa. He just went and did something, got a tangible result, shared that with other people, or probably other people saw that result, and then naturally that started a whole brand new business, a new income stream, that's what kills when people are like, oh, there's no good idea. It's like, just fucking go do something. Get a result, a minimum viable result, and then show other people that result. And people that have no results will think that you're amazing. Because it's like, I may only make $1,000 a month on Kindle, but 91% of my list makes zero money on Kindle. So to them, I'm pretty freaking awesome. To John Grisham, he could care less about me type deal. So I think that's really critical. But let's talk about, because you've done the coaching, you did it in the IM space, when you wrote the book, I've seen you do that. You've been able to do it at very high levels as far as price points with very minimum involvement. So how have you kind of been able to orchestrate that, and what's your thought process behind it?
I guess it comes from a place of early success. My very first consulting deal that was done on a very high level was a $100,000 consulting fee for one afternoon of my time.
And that was your first consulting fee?
Yeah, as I was...
Holy shit.
Well, I think I had done some higher level stuff earlier. I did maybe a couple of $20,000 deals before that. I've always done them on a high level because when I was in the adult entertainment industry, the money that I made and the things that this was back when there were secrets and when you had proprietary stuff that you were doing. And I had a lot of proprietary stuff that I was doing and I made a lot of money generating traffic by just exploiting networks and hacks and things that other people didn't know about. And, it was a time when your knowledge capital had a lot of value.
Gotcha.
So, people would always approach me and say, "Hey, I noticed you're getting a lot of traffic from peer-to-peer networks," or "Hey, I noticed you've really cornered this SEO space. How much would you charge me to, learn everything that you know?"
Right.
And this was a time when, I didn't sell information products. I didn't teach people how to make money. And when someone approached me and said, "I want to learn what you know," my attitude was always, "Fuck you. You want to compete with me."
Right.
And so I would always throw out a number, which was, "This is how much I want to charge you for the privilege of competing with me, because now I'm going to have to fight you for the same dollar."
Right, and with the same information.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm going to give you my best tips and tricks.
And what's going to stop you from going to sell to the next guy? And then I get to a point where this is gone.
Right.
So, to me, it was always like, so I remember my friend approached me and he was like, "I know you know this. I've been trying to figure it." And he had been banging on the wall trying to figure out what I was doing. And I had this proprietary software knowledge that I had figured out, and it wasn't even that awesome. It wasn't like like I'm some math whiz with a giant chalkboard full of equations that you don't understand. It was like something stupidly simple. But I just had figured it out that nobody had figured it out and was making a killing at it. And so when he approached me, I said, "I want $100,000 for the privilege of competing with me." And he had the money. I knew he had the money. And he was like, "Okay, give me a few hours to think about it." And I remember he came back to me with like a list of 6 questions. And I guess I answered them all right because he said, "Okay, let's do it." And I remember I went to his office. He gave me a bank draft for $107,000 because we had a $7,000 tax in Canada that I had to charge him. And I sat down with him and I said to him, I even told him in advance, "This is going to be the quickest. Like, you're going to learn this in an hour." And one of the parts of the deal was that I needed to guarantee him a certain amount of traffic within a certain amount of time.
Right.
And
because that's how he was going to make up your consulting.
Yeah, that was how he needed to know that he was going to hit this saturation point on his in this test that we were going to run, and that he was going to be able to scale it. So I agreed to that. So what happened was I went to his office. I got there like probably around 11 o'clock in the morning. I set up his servers. I took him out for lunch. I paid for lunch.
Nice of you.
I thought it'd be nice and buy him lunch.
That's awesome.
And we got back to his office and we'd hit the milestone.
Wow.
And so for me, it's always been my fees come from a place of, I know what I do works.
Right.
You may not follow through on this. I don't care.
Right.
Because if you do, I'm now fighting you for dollars.
Right.
So here's the price that I'm going to charge for the privilege of that knowledge and that access.
And I think that's huge because as I think about it, like I've done, I think a lot of times, especially in the coaching consulting space, you kind of want to mentor the up-and-comers or the underdogs, or you want to, give back. But what you're really doing, especially if they're in the same spaces, like you say, you're creating competitors. And I've done that in the Kindle space where I've helped Kindle product launchers with different things, and then they use those against me in launches, and it's like, fuck, I just built my own Terminator, really.
Yeah. So I don't want to do that for $7.
Yeah, right.
Right?
I charge $8. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Or 27 or 50, to me it has to be a high fee because I'm sharing with you what I had to make a lot of mistakes to learn.
Right.
And it's not it's not something that I should undervalue.
Yeah.
And so I guess it comes from a place of early success. The confidence comes from a place of early success, but knowing, like I know I can get to the result, even if it is only 20% of the people who buy something on that level will actually get to the finish line. And I even tell them that up front. I tell them 80% of my people fail because they always ask, do you have references? I never give references.
Right.
I do not provide references. And as long as I've been in business, I've found that people who ask for references, they're gone.
They're looking for a reason out the door.
Yeah.
Just like when someone, before hey, I'm about to buy a product, I just want to know before I do, what's your refund policy?
Yeah.
It's like my refund policy is you don't fucking buy.
Yeah, because you're about to refund.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the door, before, it's like, blind date where you already got a call set up 20 minutes into it. It's like, well, you weren't taking this shit serious in the first place.
Here's how you close somebody who asks for a reference.
Okay.
You say, obviously, you have an issue with trust, and I totally understand that because I would too at this level. But I know what I know, and you can Google me and see that there's nothing out there that's terrible about me that's going to make you think that I'm going to take your money and run.
Right.
And if you're the type of person who needs a reference, your trust will just move down the line. As soon as I put you on the phone with somebody who gives me a glowing review, you're going to hang up that call and say, I wonder if that was his uncle just covering for him, or if that was his buddy, or whatever. So as soon as we get to that point, your trust is just going to shift down the line, and you're going to say, I don't know if I trust your reference. I'm going to have to think about this some more. And so I tell them that, and I say, like, have you ever given a reference on a resume? Who you giving up?
Yeah.
Right. You giving up the guy that you're not sure what he's going to say about you?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So you really want a reference? Are you going to want to go down this road, or are we ready to make a decision?
Right.
And a lot of the time, someone who wants the reference will realize they're being ridiculous and will just make the decision and jump.
Right. That's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy. I think what I wanted to reiterate was, you talked about, I know I get the result. Like, it's not about you, because I know that I can get the result. And if you follow what I tell you to do, then you're going to get that result too. But if you don't, then you're not. And, you kind of gloss over where you tell people. But we were talking a little before we started recording this, but if you would talk a little bit about that process, about how you kind of talk to them. And I mean, you're very upfront with it, where you're like, hey, 80% of the people fail, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah, and it's true. 80%, this is just a rough number. I've never spreadsheeted it out, but in my head, I can tell you about 70 to 80% of the people I work with, I wouldn't say they fail, but they just don't get to the finish line. And most people don't get to the finish line because they actually just want to know how you do what you do.
Right.
They don't, and they're willing to pay, some people are willing to pay a fortune for it. And I find the more money they pay for it, the more likely they are to follow through because they're more invested. But for a lot of people, it's, oh, you work for a living. I thought you pushed buttons.
Right.
Or I thought this was going to be easier.
They want to know the magic trick.
Right. And so once they find out what it is, they don't always follow through. Or if they do it once, they don't necessarily repeat. Because they've done it once, they made some money, and they're like, okay, that worked, but I want to try something new now.
Right. And
that's totally fine. And maybe the knowledge they get from that carries them through to something better down the road, or whatever that might be. And so I tell my people up front, they ask, what's your success rate? And I say about 20% of the people who buy from me are successful. And I can tell you right now what's wrong with what happened to the other 80%. And I say, they don't follow through. They don't focus. They don't repeat. I teach them how to make money. They make a profit. They turn, 1,000 into 5 or 10 the first time. We don't try and build, giant yachts. We try and build, little rafts to show them how it works and let them scale it. And, they see that they can do it and they can repeat it, but they get bored with it quickly.
Right.
So I say that, they lose focus. They're indecisive. They're afraid to take risk. So some people will just they'll get to the point where they have to hire an outsourcer and pay $1,000, and they're just like, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore. But, I show them how to do it. And if they follow through, they'll win. But not everybody does.
Right.
And when I take people through all the reasons why, it's funny how the human mind works. If I tell you, this surgery has an 80% failure rate, and it's because the people who take the surgery don't follow through on the physiotherapy at the end, and if they don't, they'll never walk again.
Right.
And for some reason, people just give up, and 80% of them give up. But if you're in the 20% who don't give up, you will walk again.
Right.
Every single person who is told that will think they're in the 20%.
Right. It's just like when you talk about, all the, here's all the reasons they fail. They think of them like, well, I'm going to be hard working.
I focus.
I'm going to follow through.
Yeah,
I'm going to take risks.
I'm going to do this stuff.
Right. And I'm not going to be like these other people.
Yeah. So I'm very upfront with how this all works, and that I'm transparent. Right. Because I find that it puts people at ease when you tell them what they don't expect to hear.
Right.
If you tell them, I have a 100% success rate, and I've heard people say that, to me, like my bullshit detector is like ding, 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 ding. You're full of shit.
Right.
Nobody has a 100% success rate. I don't care if you're Tony fucking Robbins, you have a 100% success rate.
Right.
You know, somebody who went to a Tony Robbins seminar has committed suicide. I guarantee it because the guy's seen millions of people. So, you know, nobody has a 100% success rate.
Right. And he probably has people that have paid him millions of dollars for coaching that don't follow through.
Yeah.
Because they just learn the trick and they go, shit, this is marriage counseling. And I want the new wife that wants to, you know, play with my penis. I don't want to have to sit here and talk about my feelings for 6 months, you know, and then get divorced. Yeah.
So, you know, it's, and it's reassuring to a potential client, when they're like, this guy doesn't bullshit me. He tells me stuff I don't expect to hear. I think he's going to lie to me. And he tells me 80% of his people fail. Right. And it's just truthful and it's straight up. And then if they fail, because if they fall into that 80%, they never come back to me and say, you screwed me.
Right.
Because they know that they literally hit that bullet list and just went through and, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I lost focus. Oh yeah. I was indecisive. Oh yeah,
I hesitated.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like, you know, we were talking about this last night because Brad and I have been hanging out a lot. You know, he was talking about back in Bitcoin days where he actually had some coaching clients that when it was $89.
Yeah.
That he told them all, like, hey, I'm not, you know, a financial investor, but here's what I'm doing. You should do that. And you had how many people do that?
0.
Okay, and what did you cash out at for Bitcoin?
We don't want to talk about the dollar amounts, but I did really well with Bitcoin.
Yeah, like so several times multiple of your initial investment.
Yeah, over 10 times my money back, but
the thing about that whole thing I want people to understand is you told them when you were investing, and they could have had the same result.
Yeah, and I even told them it's not an investment. This was a craps table. You know,
right.
Thing. But if you can, you know, if you're investing, I said, you know, if you're investing $10,000 in stocks and stuff this year, put $1,000 into this just for the hell of it.
Right.
It was a big windfall for me. And I remember a lot of my coaching clients were like, damn, I should have listened to you.
Yeah.
I could have turned 10 grand into 100.
Yeah. Well, we all have those. I mean, you know, I have a deal with, with Paula when she started Teespring. I was talking about it. I was like, hey, you know what? I'll front the money and we'll split it. And then we had the initial was rough going on, and we were busy with something else. I said I'll scrap it, and she went on to do her own thing. And it's like, when I look at how much money that potentially could have made me, it's like, well, you know, I mean, sure, it's another house, but you know, who needs more than 6 of those, right? Yeah, so what is your coaching process like as far as like? And you can talk about how much or how little you want to. You want to talk about the intake process, or you want to talk about the actual coaching? Because the other part is you get this really high fee, but you know, if I charge you $10,000, I would think I'd have to come live with you for a month or something like that. You know, to make me feel like that fee is worth it. So how do you frame it in a way where you say you're going to pay me this very large amount of money? You're going to understand these are how people fail. And this is how little time I'm going to spend with you, and they'd be okay with it, where they don't feel like, oh shit, I got taken.
Well, I'm transparent and upfront about the fact that neither of us wants to waste each other's time,
right?
And that we don't need to be best friends, and I don't need to have a checkup call with you every 2 weeks.
Right.
What I need to do is I need to give you a laundry list of things to do, and you need to follow up on those things. And I'm always here if you have questions. So it's not. You're only getting 3 hours of my time, and it's not you're getting 30 hours of my time. And what I tell them is everybody's going to have a different requirement for the amount of time that they need from me.
Right.
And I'm not going to count the hours because I want to do it in the minimum amount of time. And you want the same. We both agree we want this in the minimum amount of time. So you're not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste yours. And we're going to do this so quickly so that you get to the result and you don't need me anymore.
Right.
But if you have questions along the way, you send me a quick message. Hey, Brad, I'm hiring this outsourcer. What do you think of their portfolio? Or I'm doing this. How do I deal with this problem? I know the answer.
Right.
I've probably had the problem along the way. And if I don't, I can possibly connect you to somebody.
Right.
And so I'm there for them they know I'm in their corner. I'm not going to leave them hanging. But once they get to the result, we're done.
Yeah.
You turn 1,000 into 5, we're done, because now you go turn 10 into 50.
Right, because you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. So it's not so much that you're like, I'm never going to be here. It's like, hey, I'm here as much as you need it. I just want to get it done as quick as possible because you want to get it done as quick as possible. And as soon as we get to that desired outcome, like you said, your buddy, you came back from lunch, the fulfillment was already met.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I already met it. It's like, we don't need to sit here and bullshit anymore. I got $107,000 bank draft to cash,
Yeah.
What about the poor guys? Oh, man, that's crazy. So you've done this now with Flippa, and I know you've got some exciting stuff that you've done. You've created a course on flipping.
Yep.
Right? And you've got a mastermind
Yeah.
that works really well with that. And I love how you have your masterminds because they're kind of set up, too, like that, where it's not like, guys, we're going to come and I have to do a bunch of stuff every week. It's kind of like, I'm going to show up, we're going to talk, and if no one shows up, then we don't need to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works well because the people who need the most access get it, and the people who need the least access get it, but the result is always the same. The outcome is always the same.
Wow. That's awesome. I want you, before I let you go, I want you to share your money hack that you wrote about that we talked about we talked about this morning, about what you do with your money when it comes to like sweeping your accounts and how you always stay hungry. Because I have found this to be a problem, and I want to hashtag this first world problem.
Rich people problems.
Yeah, rich people problems, right? Respectable older gentleman problems, whatever you want to do it. But, there really can come a time where you are too comfortable.
Yep.
And I have found that I have made the least amount of money in my business and probably had the least amount of satisfaction in my business when I was comfortable. When I was like, I have enough money, all my needs are met. So you kind of have some ways that you've tracked and hacked the brain to kind of force yourself to always stay in that hungry mode that I want you to talk about. And guys, this is stuff, I mean, when Brad taught it, I was like, oh, come on. And I started doing it, and I noticed an immediate impact because of the psychology behind it.
Yeah, there's a problem when you start to make too much money where that can really cripple you. Where if you've got too much money in the bank or too much money in your PayPal account, like we were talking about this morning. Where like if you've got enough money in your PayPal account to cover all your expenses for 2 years, or you've got enough money in your bank account to cover your minimum payments on all your stuff, your mortgage and all your whatever it is to cover your monthly expenses for years, which sometimes you get to that space. And this doesn't if you're listening to this and you don't have that much money, this actually still applies. So hear me out on this because the mentality is the same. But the analogy I always use is the grocery shopping analogy. They always tell you, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah, because you buy every fucking whim and
load up the cart. You will buy way more groceries.
You're ravenous. Yeah, right.
Right? And money works the same way, right? If you go to the grocery store full, you will be conservative about what you put in the cart. So if you have a full bank account and a full PayPal account, all your credit cards are paid and you have all this money, you're actually conservative about how much more you get less aggressive about how much more you go after. It's very hard to change that mindset. And so what I do is I liquidate my accounts and I move my money into places that it's not as easily accessible. But whether that's life insurance trusts or index funds or other investments where I put my money, gold and silver, all these different places where I put it, where it's not, I can't just go to the ATM and take the money out. Or I can't just, do a mass pay and send you money.
Right.
I have to think twice about where I get it.
So you can get your money if you need to, but it takes a second to get liquid.
Right. And so what I try and do is I try and sweep out my PayPal account, sweep out my bank accounts to a point where I have enough to get me through a couple of months, but not a lifetime.
Right.
And, of course I have, there's other things you can do. We talk about money all day long, but this mentality, if you have 20 grand in your PayPal account, as a for instance, and that covers your nut for 6 months, if you take out 15 or 17 and put it in your bank account, now that lower PayPal balance will actually make you write an email that you wouldn't have written when you had 20 in there. Yeah. And it's a little thing, but it's a big thing when you think about it because now you're working hard to get that back up to 20.
It's absolutely.
And then you flush it again.
It's huge. What Brad's talking is exactly my thought process. I woke up this morning, we're selling our traffic and conversion notes, trafficandconversionsummitnotes.com, right? So we're doing that and it's going really, really, really well. So I'm blessed right now. I've got some cash in there, but it's like, well, I should have sent that email yesterday, but then you log into PayPal and you're like, oh, I'm good. So I wrote an email because I knew I was sweeping the PayPal account today and I wanted to refresh it. Now I'm like checking, and it just keeps you hungry.
Yep.
And it keeps you motivated. You know, one thing I'm even doing was I took this a little one step further with my bank account. And I basically said, I'm going to establish this minimum, or this maximum, excuse me, that we're going to keep in the account, and every dollar over it every month gets swept out. And I can tell you from personal experience, like, that creates an instant fire, because I've talked about it before, like a thermostat. If you're used to having 20K in there and then you log in and it's 5, it's like your brain is like, we have to get back to comfortable and normal as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And then when you get up there, you do it again, your brain's like, oh shit, it's fight or flight. And I mean, you know, it can create a little bit of stress, but it's good. It's motivational stress.
We need it.
Yeah, and you do need it, you know, and even if you are, like, I did this in the reverse when I was quitting my job, and I think about it, it was like, how low can I get my credit card balance? Bam. And you're aggressive, and you hammer it down, and you start seeing those results, and you're like, man, I want to keep doing this, because this is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. And so, you know, you still have money, and but it just goes into stocks, and it goes into investments where you have to really go through, you have to jump through hoops to get it. And so you're not going to go there for it. You're going to focus on earning the revenue back that you need to get yourself back to that place of comfort, and then take it away again, and just keep pulling the rug out from under yourself. And it really helps you to earn a lot more money.
Yeah. Because just going back to the grocery cart example, you know, when you're ravenous, you put everything in there. But when you're full, you can't, you know, if you get, you know, I've had this happen, like, I'll just get done eating lunch. Somebody call me and go, you want to go to lunch? It's like, dude, I can't. If I eat again, I'm miserable. Because your body is just like, no, we're good. We're comfortable. We're happy. We're safe. And you want to kind of keep, like you say, it gets to a point, again, you know, first world problems, but it gets to a point where you really do have to self-motivate to continue to make money, because especially if you've got low debt, you know, your lifestyle is paid for, and you have a significant reserve, you know, it really causes you to be like, I'm good. Like, I can just coast for a little while. And, you know, you always know that always bites you months and years down the road.
You have to trick the lizard brain, right? We have, you know, they always talk about the sort of the lizard part of the brain that reacts. You know, it's the part of your brain that you know, knows to fight or flight, and,
right,
you know, all that kind of stuff. And if you can trick it into pushing you forward to get back to comfort, whatever that minimum comfort is. Everyone has a different number, a different definition of what that is. But if you can trigger it to actually listen, or to put you into that hustle mode, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually your operating system.
Yeah.
And if you hack your operating system, you'll always be more successful than if you just try and intelligently do things financially. It's like if you trick yourself into thinking you don't have enough money, you'll hustle to get it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny how they say that you know, everyone can meet their minimums, but they're all different. You know, some people, you know, I know guys that have, you know, lifestyles that cost them $100,000 a month. You know, and they always manage to meet that minimum. Even if they're always broke, they're able to meet that minimum.
Because
the mind is programmed that way, right?
That's just disgusting. I mean, as I think about it, it's just, and it sounds so simple, but I'm telling you, someone who's been doing it ever since he mentioned it, it's the smartest thing. I mean, what I do is every Monday I get up and I sweep the count down to the bare minimum that I know that we need to survive. And then it's like you're instant hustle mode, because you're like, I have to make that money. Totally. I have to make that money right now so that I can get back up to where it was. And then you sweep it back down. Even today, I'm like, you know, looking and going, okay, well, how many sales have we made? What's the PayPal balance up? Because my body and my brain is going, hey, we're starving. We need to, you know, need to get back to that security place.
It's okay to make yourself a little bit anxious so that you work harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying give yourself a panic attack or anything like that. It's just, I mean, like I said, you get to a point where you have the toys, you know, you have the lifestyle, you can pretty much do what you want when you want. So you have to find different ways to motivate yourself, and that's a really easy hack. Whether you're trying to pay off debt or accumulate wealth, that you can do to keep yourself motivated and hungry. Yeah,
and in the process, you're investing. You're putting your money in places where it's going to grow, and you know, you don't necessarily see it like you see it in your bank account or your PayPal account, but it's there and it's working for you.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Well, dude, look, I want to do more, but this has already gone on probably the longest interview ever. So if you're coming to Mayhem next month, I want to do part 2 of this.
Okay.
And we'll talk about, because the other thing is, you know, I want to talk about your hiring processes. There's just so much more to discover in the world of Brad. But till then, man, thanks for hanging out, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.